We are surrounded by technology. I mean, it's in every single second of our lives. But we almost never stop to ask what it really is. We think of it as a tool, right? Something we build, we control. But what if that simple, basic assumption is dangerously wrong? So let's just start right there with that common view. Is technology just a neutral tool that we control? I mean, on the surface, it seems totally obvious. Of course it is. We build it, we use it, we can turn it off. But the philosopher Martin Heidegger came along and argued that this simple yes completely misses the bigger picture and the real danger of what technology has become. To really get to the heart of what technology is doing, we have to look beyond our phones, beyond our laptops, beyond all the machines. We need to actually zoom out and look at our fundamental relationship with the whole thing. And this is where Heidegger makes this super provocative claim that, honestly, it sounds a bit like a riddle. He says, the essence of technology is by no means anything technological. Now, this is the key to his entire argument. He's telling us flat out that if we want to understand technology, we have to stop looking at all the shiny gadgets and start looking at something much, much deeper. Okay, so what in the world does he mean by essence? To help us get our heads around this pretty abstract idea, Heidegger uses a really brilliant analogy. Think about it like this. On one hand, you've got physical trees. You know, things you can actually see and touch in a forest. But on the other hand, you have the idea of a tree. This concept of tree-ness that lets you recognize an oak, a pine, and a birch all as trees. That essence, that pure idea, isn't something you can just go find growing in the woods. And that perfectly illustrates his point. Just like the essence of a tree isn't an actual tree, the essence of modern technology isn't a machine. It's not a thing at all. It is a specific, really powerful, and kind of all-encompassing way of seeing the world. It's a worldview. Now, Heidegger gives this worldview a special name, and it's a German term that's a little tricky to translate directly. It's Gestell. The most common translation we have for it is enframing. So what is enframing? Well, you should forget any idea of a passive picture frame. The German root word here, stellen, is much more aggressive. It means to challenge, to confront, to demand. So enframing is this worldview that aggressively demands that the world reveal itself as nothing more than an ordered system, just sitting there, ready to be optimized for whatever we want to use it for. You can think of it like a pair of glasses that we can't take off. Through this lens, a forest isn't a complex, beautiful ecosystem. Nope, it's a potential energy source. A river isn't a landmark, it's just potential hydroelectric power. Even our own sleep isn't just for rest. It's something to be tracked and measured and optimized for peak performance. Everything is summoned to be put in order. So when we see the entire world through this lens of enframing, what does everything in it become? Well, Heidegger has a name for that too. Bestand, which translates to standing reserve. And here is the absolutely crucial point. Anything that gets enframed becomes part of this standing reserve. It's not seen as a thing in itself anymore. It's just a resource on standby, waiting to be ordered and deployed. Its most important quality isn't that it exists, but that it's available on demand, whenever we want it. Let's make this concrete with an example. So traditionally, a forest is an object, a Gegenstand, an ecosystem full of life and mystery and growth. But when it's enframed, it becomes standing reserve, Bestand. It's reduced to a timber resource, just a quantifiable number of board feet waiting to be harvested. Heidegger uses the example of a river. Once, it was a landmark, right? A part of the landscape. But through the lens of enframing, it gets set upon, as he says, and it's challenged to become something else entirely. A supplier of kilowatt hours, a battery for the power grid, an energy store just held in reserve.
And here's where it gets truly unsettling. This worldview doesn't just stop with nature. Think about the term human resources. A person, an individual, is reframed as a resource. We become units of labor to be deployed, or consumers to be targeted, or just data points in a huge system to be analyzed and optimized. We become part of the standing reserve. Okay, so let's bring this all together. Why does this philosophical deep dive even matter? Well, because understanding this worldview reveals both a pretty profound danger and a little glimmer of hope.
The supreme danger, as Heidegger saw it, is that this way of seeing becomes the only way of seeing. When enframing is the only game in town, humanity itself risks being reduced to just another manageable, orderable resource. We risk totally losing sight of what it even means to be human in the first place. But and this is so critical, Heidegger was not some anti-technology pessimist. His goal wasn't to reject technology, it was all about awareness. You see, once we understand that end-framing is only one possible way of seeing the world and not the only way, then we can start to build a freer relationship with our technology. We can open the door to other ways of being.
Which leaves us with a final, pretty big question. If this technological worldview is just one lens, what are we not seeing? What other possibilities are we missing? The next time you look at a forest or a river or even another person, what will you see? A thing with its own mystery, or just another resource standing in reserve waiting to be used?